I just... All I can do is laugh at this point because this team, deja vu, once again, the Atlanta Braves, we know how good they are, and they once again, down 4-1, do exactly what they did last night. I guess this is how Atlanta sports fans felt with the 28-3. Is this what it feels like? Because I'm over it. Oh my God. I don't know what else to do but truly laugh at this point because how god-awful and pathetic that we saw another Mets loss, another series loss for the first time since 2021 September. The Mets have lost 5 straight effing games. We have a lot to get into. I'll be breaking down, sharing your reactions, your comments. We're going to be even taking some live callers from my Mets fans. I want to share their frustrations later on the show. We have to break down innings 1 through 9. What was another catastrophic loss? You know, you have to give the Mets credit for going out of their way to find new and improved ways to not only heartbreak us fans, but come out again with a shit show loss. I mean, it is truly impressive how much this team finds new ways to lose. It is impressive that Buck Showalter continues to play dead weight in Daniel Vogelback as he's a gaping hole in this lineup at the DH position. It's impressive that Mark Vientos is even on this team still right now and not sent down because, you know, the best thing for a young player's development is to, instead of, you know, let them get consistent reps in either minor leagues or the bigs, have them sit at the major league level after having strides of greatness few and far in between. But again, small sample sizes keep him on the bench no matter the situation. And you know what? We're going to hurt his trade value too in case of anything, just to make sure that we are doing this all properly. Shout out to Buck for having no fucking clue what he's doing. Shout out to the bullpen for having no depth. Ottavino being god-awful. It is true. Ottavino is a death sentence when he's out there on back-to-back outings. That's what we saw again tonight. Max Scherzer was a till. 2 different starters tonight. Looked great in the beginning, a lot of swing and miss, and got barreled a shit ton and was not pumping the fastball enough. So much to critique about this team. But again, if you're a Braves fan, I appreciate you guys being in here. If you're a Mets fan, I love it. Appreciate you guys being in here. To everyone, appreciate you guys watching live on our replays. We break down the latest Mets series loss, dropping game 2 of a 3-game set by a final score of 7-5 versus the Atlanta Braves. And first and foremost, as I said yesterday, again, Braves fans have all the right in the world to talk shit. They have been the big dog between the two for a while now, including this season. So I'm not going to sit here and rag or anything like that. However, all I ask from Braves fans, show a little bit of respect. I'm going to do the same with you. That's how it always is. If you guys get a little overboard the way that you did, and by the way, to all the fans in attendance tonight that were cheering, that were happy when Alonso got hit by the pitch, go fuck yourself. Just throwing that out there right away because that is deserved. You pieces of you know what? You're the absolute scum of the earth. Don't get me wrong, Mets fans, we have some terrible fans in the fan base too. We have fans that were saying, you know, we want Acuna hit right away too. Now, I don't condone that at all. But to all the fans that were happy that Alonso got hurt today, you are a steaming pile of shit, and I don't care about your opinion. But aside from them, I know we have a lot of respectful Braves fans in the live chat to my 500 viewers. I know that we got a lot of Mets fans that are really upset, a lot to get into. So like I said, we're going to be breaking down innings 1 through 9. We're going to get into the numbers. We're going to talk about what led to this shit show. We're going to talk about Buck Showalter. How do we feel about good old Bucky, old Buck pal, that we're going to get into here shortly, and a lot more. But again, appreciate you guys being in here, you absolute beauties. If there's one thing that I can enjoy as much as truly heartbroken and frustrated that I am after a series loss like this, it's knowing that I get to interact with you guys. And again, this is all part of the reason why I do this for a living. I always enjoy the interactions and all those things. I got a lot of donations I know I got to get into, all that. So again, appreciate you beauties being in here. But guys, more than anything, I got to tell you about an announcement on the channel because now is a perfect time to go over it, especially for my New York Mets fans. So give it a listen. As many of you know, last year in my post-game show, when I was discussing the Mets' one and only win over the San Diego Padres in that wildcard matchup, I found myself live on air having a full-blown panic attack, and since then have dealt with an internal conflict of anxiety on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. But if there has been one thing that not only helped be a remedy to said anxiety, but truly rectify things, it has been by seeking out various forms of therapy, which is why I'm beyond excited to announce that BetterHelp is a sponsor of today's video. BetterHelp, for those that don't know, is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. And to get started, you just answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or video call. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you. And if for whatever reason your therapist isn't right for you, you can switch to a new one at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom picked for you, more scheduling flexibility, and at a more affordable price. So go ahead and get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/WardyNYM, and I've also linked them in the description down below of said video. Again, check out our sponsor at BetterHelp.com/WardyNYM so you can get 10% off your first month of therapy with BetterHelp and get matched with a therapist who will listen and help. And once more, shout out to BetterHelp for being a great sponsor in today's video. Alrighty, and again, shout out to BetterHelp. No better time to talk about getting your online therapy needs than after the Mets again lose 2 straight heartbreaking games against their biggest rival and the biggest fashion. Again, click the link in the description after watching the live show so you too can get 10% off your first month with BetterHelp. And shout out to them as always for being a great sponsor on the channel. We have other great sponsors: Mojo Sportsbook, Sorare MLB, Mantis Sleep. Love them all, but we'll get into them later in the show. I wanted to start the show with that because, like I said, it was fitting. You know, part of me was like, you know what, maybe if we start the show after a big dub, it'll be great, you know, for the sponsor. But you know what? It's actually even better after Mets fans and all their mothers are distraught after a loss like this. Because you look at the tomato face that is me. I'm so frustrated. I'm so beyond fed up. This team is 2 games below 500. They're 7.5 back at first. Everything that could have went wrong has went wrong for this damn team. You see the same flaws, the same issues on a night-to-night basis, and nothing's being addressed. Mark Vientos is in the doghouse for what? For being called up? You know, it feels like there's an imbalance between Billy Epler and Buck Showalter here. Because if I don't understand why Epler would call him up and say, you know what, let's give Vogelback every rep under the sun when Daniel Vogelback has literally been one of the worst goddamn hitters in baseball for over a month and a half, 2 months, basically the entirety of the season. The guy is walking out. And as someone that loved and admired Vogelback when the Mets first acquired him, this is nothing personal. I know he has so much pressure on his shoulders. I know that's guys like me that are not making things easier for him because he's aware of the media. He's aware of fan reaction. However, with that being said, you're getting paid your money, you need to produce, and you've been dog shit. And on top of that, the Mets' decisions continue to be dog shit. Even at their best, even the Mets at their best, they have so many things that need to change internally with the bullpen, with the rotation being healthier and better for them to get anywhere this year. The Atlanta Braves are a great team, we know that, but it's inexcusable when you're up 4-1 early on in both games, and you do nothing with it. You do nothing with it. Tommy Pham, thank you for being a saving grace. I appreciate that. Pham has been one of the few bright spots for the Mets as of late that we've seen. I mean, truly impressed with Tommy Pham. Who would have thought? You know, the Mets, however, are so shit this season when Tommy Pham is second on the team in OPS right now. Yes, you heard that correctly. Tommy Pham is second on this team in OPS with 810, only trailing Pete Alonso with his 872. A guy who is a part-time player for you has an 810 OPS. I got donations I gotta get into. I know. Let's get into them. Let's talk about this shit show of a series. Let's get into it. Appreciate, again, everyone watching live on a replay. I might break down innings 1 through 9 real soon. Someone captioned 4-1 as their YouTube channel. I would. You know, I would say the same to Atlanta fans about 28-3 because they feel pretty much the same. Benjamin, thank you so much for donation. It says, as a Braves fan, going to call out my fans that cheered when Alonso got hurt. That's BS. I appreciate that, Benjamin. Thank you. And I am equally calling out all Mets fans. Any Mets fans having the audacity to call out, you know, and saying that any Brave needs to get severely hurt or anything like that, go fuck yourself. You're no better. You're just as bad. You are the exact reason why one fan base to another look like complete hypocrites. Instead of taking the high road, in which the Mets at least tried to offensively in their response, instead, us fans are calling for heads. It's never going to work out that way. Karma happens, and it happened again. So can we stop? Please. Let me see if I can get some more donations here. I might have missed a couple. I appreciate everyone's donos, though, guys. Thanks. So McBlam, thank you for the $10 haul. McBlam says, explain to me how this season is Buck's fault. How do you manage a starting pitching staff that can barely go 4 innings on average, but also give up 70 to 75 bombs and leads the league in walks? Don't get me wrong. Not everything is on Buck's shoulders. However, to justify Buck Showalter letting the DH position that's supposed to be your second best power position, arguably, for your lineup, continue to be non-existent for basically the entirety of the year because you're not playing guys that are on the roster is where you're at fault. It's not starting. It's allowing Tomas Nido to get 2 starting games over the past week. It's allowing Omar Narvaez to a lesser extent, because I don't dislike Omar Narvaez. I know he's going to get in there. Point stands is, when you have better players that have far more upside and they're on the roster, you give them a leash. Because by sitting Mark Vientos, not only hurts his development, it hurts his trade value. And Daniel Vogelback has none. The Mets thought, oh, maybe if we ride things out with Vogie, it'll increase his trade value. Any type of semblance of trade value that Vogelback had is seemingly through the dust. It's through the wind. It's out of here. It's sayonara. Look, I don't hate Buck. There are a lot of things I like about Buck, but a lot of the decisions that he thrived in so well last year, he has struggled mightily this year, even when things have been on paper in his favor. Okay, this goes far beyond the fact that he has had a laboring pitching staff to deal with. Because yes, that's a big problem. And yes, that needs to be addressed some way, somehow, and that is out of Buck's hands. But it's also fair to give criticism to a manager that has not helped out the Mets in many fashions that we've seen in recent weeks for this club. That too is it's okay to call one thing now while being aware that he isn't at fault for everything. Seriously. Let's see here. Now let me get to more donations. I know we got a bunch. And Pat, thank you for the dono. What a new flash. Watching the Mets is no cure for anxiety. I'm well aware, but you know what? Here's the thing. When it's your livelihood, when it's your day-to-day workspace, you have to deal with it. And that's why I have been dealing with it. A great way that I have is by, again, using various forms of therapy, including my good friends at BetterHelp that are a great sponsor today's show. Let's see here. 60 games in, you would think Buck would know Max can't go past 5 innings with that many hits. Sweaty Walrus DH has to be blackmailing Buck, man. I appreciate that donation. Let's see. I'm literally going to BetterHelp and using your link because my Padres are as bad as your Mets. You literally, Padres and Mets fans can relate. Shout out to you, Hog, the best Padres YouTuber out there, covering them game by game. Padres had a big win tonight, though, so that's something to be happy about. Patty, thank you for the $10 holla. You got to believe. Yeah, with the laughing face. You got to believe indeed. I appreciate that donation, though. Appreciate all the other donos in case I missed anything. Henry, thank you so much. This Scherzer shouldn't have gone back after the 5th. Vogie has to have some kind of dirty and butter. Buck, it's the same type of comment from a different person. That's actually hilarious. I appreciate that donation, too, though. Thank you so much. Guys, do me a do me a favor. Spam in the chat right now. Then we're going to break down the game inning by inning and me having a little bit of a rant and shit show. And also make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. It really, really does mean a lot. Guys, spam in the chat. Once we're 30 minutes or 40 minutes into the live show, would you like me to take some callers tonight? It's simple yes or no. I am going to try to do my best by getting a couple callers that are Mets-centric. Nothing personal against the Braves fans here, but I want to hear Mets fans' reaction and response to this season. It's a Mets center channel, so nothing personal, Braves fans, everyone being respectful, but I want Mets fans in here because this goes far beyond just the Braves series. It's the Mets as a whole. So do me a favor, everyone start spamming the live chat. Yes or no, would you like to see callers in the next 20 minutes or so? Really appreciate it. And then from there, after that, we'll probably get closer to wrapping things up, but we have a lot to get into. We have to break down this ball. I'm so fed up. I'm so fed up with this team. 6 hits tonight. The Braves had 5 infield singles in like 1 inning. The Braves did so good. So good. And what the Mets thrived off of last year. When the Mets were at their peak, what the Mets did so good was soft contact infield singles or even hard contact, but they just sprayed down the line and got there safely. It was getting those gap to gaps, getting those home runs every now and then. Not a lot, but every now and then. Again, the Braves are a great home running team. But more than anything, clutching up with 2 outs. Clutching up with 2 outs is something that this Braves team did so damn well that led them to victory again, and something that the Mets, they continue to struggle with. This team has been struggling every way. TC, I'm sorry to break it to you, but you being the lone guy to say no to callers means that we're going to have callers, so you're going to have to get over it. Yoshima, thank you for the comment. He says, I usually try to stay positive as much as possible, but even I'm starting to lose hope. It feels like the writing was on the wall when Edwin went down. I don't think the writing was on the wall when Edwin went down, and I don't think this season is done by any stretch. And by the way, Pete Alonso, of course, is day-to-day with a wrist contusion after getting hit by a pitch today. So thankfully it's nothing too serious on that front, nothing broken. But I will say this, all us Mets fans can hope for at this point is that the Mets get magic the way that the Braves did in 2021, the way that the Phillies did, all the way starting in playoffs basically last year, the way that the Nationals did in 2019. What do all these teams have in common? They all had dog shit first half of the seasons and either made key acquisitions by the trade deadline and rallied in the second half of the year entering postseason. And all of them went to the World Series. Two of those three teams won the World Series. The only one that didn't was the Phillies last year, who again just labored themselves into playoffs in that wild card spot and then got hot as soon as they faced the Atlanta Braves after the St. Louis Cardinals for that game or two. That's all we can hope for as Mets fans right now. You need to hope that you can ride the ship as we get to the second half this season. You need to hope that they make the proper moves internally and externally, because if they don't do those things, this team is not going to go anywhere this year. Again, plenty of ball left. We're aware that we're around 40% into the season or so. If I can do math, which I can, I'm not a mathematician, I'm a YouTuber or schmuck talking baseball right now, but the same applies. TJ, thank you for donation. He says, should our the air in NY is as toxic as this team? Also, shout out to the air quality for being shit. I reside in PA. Let's see how bad it is right now. My air quality is at 430 right now in Pennsylvania. It is that bad. In New York, looked like the movie Dune today. Actually terrible. Thank you, Canna. I appreciate that. TJ with the $5 holly. He says, should our hitting coach be on the hot seat? Do you think Chavez moving to bench coach and having a less seasoned hitting coach is hurting us? Could be to an extent, but it's like to what extent though, TJ? That's the thing. How much is Danny Barnes as a hitting coach really playing a factor into the Mets having these inconsistencies? So that's something that I don't know wholeheartedly. We're just sitting here guessing, right? I don't have an answer to that, but I have been wondering that exact same thing. McBlam, thank you for a donation. Get the live criticism, but look at how many games we lost because of pitching stuff. Oh, I'm well aware. Pitching not going deep has been a massive problem, especially when you don't have a deep bullpen. Well aware of that as well. Well aware. No, I'm not disagreeing there, but I'm saying it's okay to have criticisms with Buck because they're justified while also knowing that this doesn't all fall on his shoulders. Pat, thank you so much. Rory, you should have a literacy test to filter out the Braves fans. That's a funny donation. Thank you so much. Apologies to the Braves fans that are nice and got offended by that. But let's break down the game inning by inning. Let's get into this shit show. That was a long day. Stay inside and go live all day. Now, I had to do errands quite a bit today, and I mean the air was not fun today, and hopefully it gets cleared up over the next 48, 72 hours. All right, so again, the Mets 5-game losing streak. First time since 2021. You'll love to fucking see it. Cue the sarcasm. The game starts in the first with Brandon Nimmo with a walk. McNeil with a fielder's choice. Alonso with a hit by pitch. And Pham would then come in as the pinch runner there for Alonso. Brett Beatty with a broken bat, bloop RBI single up the middle, and the Mets have a 1-0 lead. Mets, when they had the early lead in said ball game, when they are the first to have a lead, if I'm not mistaken, are like, 17-3, 17-4 on the season. The Mets had a very good record entering tonight when they get the lead. But of course, in typical Mets fashion, that would only last so long. In the bottom of the first, Alonso with an infield Olsen, the other first baseman, with an infield single, and then Max would go on to strike out 3. Again, Max Scherzer was striking out everybody and their mother tonight, but the issue was what Max did so well in the first half of the game, he could not handle himself in his final 2 innings. He was way too heavy on the slider, hung a lot that we're going to get into shortly, and wasn't utilizing the fastball enough that he got a lot of nice swing and miss on. His fastball looked sharp tonight, and he didn't use it enough when he needed to. So regardless, clean inning there for Max. In the second with 2 outs, Francisco Alvarez proving why he's one of the best young phenoms in baseball, ripping a solo bomb to left. That's his 9th home run and not even 120 at-bats this season. That's a damn good pace for a guy if he was, say, playing literally every single day. Alvi, you're a beauty and I love you. And of course, in typical Mets fashion, Alvarez with a home run is anything but a guarantee of Mets winning said ball games. You know, if I'm not mistaken, the past 3 games that Alvarez has hit a home run in, the Mets have lost 2 games, back-to-back games against the Rockies, 3-run home runs each of those games, and the Mets lost both games. Tonight, get the home run from Alvarez, the Mets don't win. because, of course. In the second, Max with a 1-2-3 second. McNeil with a walk, that's all she wrote in the third. In the bottom of the third, Harris with an infield single. Michael Harris looking like a man who won Rookie of the Year last year again. He might have been batting below the Mendoza line entering tonight's game, but he was a thorn in the Mets side to say the least, and of course had that acrobatic elite defense that he's been so commonly known for as young start to his MLB career. Harris with an infield single, gets the second base on an Alvarez error, but Max would strike out 3 again there in the third, and whoever had the over on 6.5 Ks for Max Scherzer, especially if for my New Jersey residents, doing that through Mojo Sportsbook, you won out before the game even really started. So congratulations to you all that took the over on Max's Ks. In the fourth, though, Beatty would have walked and Vogelback would have walked. Vogel's the only time getting on base, taking pitches. Surprise, surprise. The Mets don't do anything there. However, a wasted opportunity. 2 on, less than 2 out. Because in the fourth, Riley with a single, then all with 2 outs. 2 outs. This is what the Braves did so well. Braves fans, you know this because you watched the game. Albies with an infield single. Ozuna, that schmuck with an infield single. Lindor thankfully saves a run by keeping in the infield. Then Arcia with an RBI infield single that no one could get to. And then finally, Michael Harris strikes out to end the inning. Max Scherzer had 9 strikeouts through 4 innings of play. In the fifth, however, with 2 outs, Lindor with a double. Pham with his first home run against right-handed pitching this year. Huge bomb. And I was criticizing that. Part of me was frustrated. Why is Pham in the lineup there and playing Canada first when we could have kept Cannon left and actually started Vientos there at first base after Alonso was out? But again, I digress. As Shaq would say in the meme, I apologize. I'm unfamiliar with your game because Tommy Pham continues to stay hot. Doesn't matter what type of handness he's facing. He rips a bomb to make it, again, a 4-1 ball game. The PTSD is starting to kick in. It's almost like the Mets blew a 4-1 effing lead yesterday. That would end up being the case. But prior to getting there, again, Pham with that bomb. Pham has been taking some really nice at-bats lately. Give him credit. And Charlie Morton's day is done. Mets kick out Charlie Morton in not even 5 innings. 4.2 innings of 4 earned run ball, 4 walks, 4 runs, 4... Oh, my God. 4 earned runs, 5 strikeouts, and 107 pitches. I mean, Mets did a very good job against Charlie Morton today, working his count. But, of course, it wasn't enough. Because why would it be enough against the Braves team, right? God forbid. As we advance forward in the game, as the Mets have a 4-1 lead in the bottom of the fifth with 2 outs, Riley with a single, Sean Murphy with a no-doubt 2-run bomb to left, continues to be one of the biggest Mets killers imaginable, continues to be one of the best catchers in baseball, rips a hating slider from Max Scherzer, and it's a 1-run ball game, 4-3. As we head to the sixth with 2 outs, Arcia, again with 2 outs, folks. Keywords 2 outs. Arcia with a double. Harris with an RBI double ties the ball game. Acuna with an RBI single because you knew he was going to get a hit at some point, and then that'll do it for Max Scherzer's final line. As you would see here, Mad Max, a tale of 2 starts. Great start, a lot of swing and miss, but overall, still labored. 11 hits, 5 earned runs. Shouldn't have stayed in there as long as he did. 103 pitches, 3.71 ERA rate on the year for the veteran right-hander. Again, I liked a lot what I saw from Max tonight, but it just, that end was not pretty. And that ultimately led to the Mets' demise one way or the other here, right? I mean, aside from the bullpen doing what they did famously, which was, of course, blowing it, but we'll get into that in a second. Because as we advance further in this ball game, as again, it's a tie ball game, then they get the lead. Leon comes in, and he gets the final out there in the 6th. I think that was on Olsen, if I'm not mistaken. And the 7th, Nimmo would a walk. McNeil would a single. Lindor would a walk. It's bases loaded, less than 2 outs for Tommy Pham, who rips going oppo what would have been at least a short double to bring in a couple runs. Ronald Acuna Jr. has one of the best catches of the season to make it only a tied ball game. That is an RBI sac fly for Tommy Pham. That's his 3rd RBI of the night. If there was going to be a player of the game from the Mets side of things, it would have surely been Tommy Pham tonight as he drives in his 3rd run. That's all she wrote, though. Brett Beatty grounds out there between 2nd and 1st to end the inning. In the 7th, with 2 outs, you have Leon getting 2 nice outs. Raley comes in to face Eddie Rosario and gets him out to end the inning. In the 8th, Marte with a leadoff single. The Mets don't do anything with it. In the bottom of the 8th, Ozuna with a double, and then Adam Ottavino, of course, comes in, and Adam Ottavino on back-to-back nights of pitching has continued to be absolute dog shit. In 7 games, he has 5 innings, 5 earned runs, 3 home runs is what he's allowed thus far in that back-to-back outings that we've seen so far this year, including a no-doubt dead center home run to Michael Harris, and that gives them a 7-5 lead. And as you would expect against AJ Mentor, who has not been great at all for the Braves this year, gets an easy 1-2-3 because why wouldn't he? And that's how the Mets falter, and that is how the Mets ultimately drop the series. Are you saying if we don't brush our teeth and sleep with arrogant, we can have the Braves Brave Magic too? If it was that easy, then yes, but unfortunately no. Pat, thank you for the donation. And I know we got, and again, look at the offensive numbers, guys. Again, the Mets had 6 hits to the Braves 14. Mets had an expecting batting average of 278 today, but it doesn't matter. You want to know why? Because they didn't hit enough. Daniel Vogelbach continues to be a gaping hole. Daniel Vogelbach is batting 203, but he gets on base, guys. He gets on base. I know batting average doesn't mean everything, but when you have been as dog shit and as non-existent of a bat of any threat on a night-to-night basis, the way that Vogelbach has for a month and a half now, there is truly nothing to justify him starting. And yet Buck Showalter decided, let's start him 5 yesterday, let's start him 7 today. And he was a factor into this Mets loss offensively. Gaping hole. Mark Canha wasn't good tonight either. I understand that a lot of the offense wasn't good tonight. However, doesn't change the fact that they have gaping holes right now. They're doing nothing to fix it when they have internal options at minimum to consider. It is beyond pathetic, and that is why I'm so damn fed up with what I've been seeing from this team, on that front at least. Just god-awful. Absolutely god-awful.
As many of you know, last year in my post...
Sorry about that, guys. Forgot about the ad still running. Now... let me check. Let's see how you guys are reacting in the live show right now. Let's get into the poll. Let's get into it. And guys, we're right around at 100 likes, so continue smashing that like and subscribe button. It's greatly appreciated, folks. We're going to be taking callers in the next 10 minutes or so. But before we do, I want to see where we're at in the poll right now. It's my over 600 live viewers. Again, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button for the most consistent Mets coverage here on YouTube. If you love my rants, if you love me being a rational thinker, if you love me being irrational, however you're feeling, this is the place to be. And again, I appreciate everyone's support. Braves, Mets fans, your mother, who doesn't matter. Appreciate you guys being in here. Okay, so out of almost 700 votes, we're at like 650 now. 63% of you guys, whether you're a Mets or a Braves fan, whoever, believe that Buck Showalter should be on the hot seat soon. 22% of you guys say depends where Mets are midseason, and 15% say no. And here's the thing. I can yell all I want because you guys know I'm very good and very easygoing in doing that. But this team is just like, it's laughable at this point. They're 2 games below 500, and they're finding new ways to lose. They were in both ball games. Every game that they've had with the Mets this year have been close. I mean, Braves, rather. It's been close games every single game they played against the Braves, aside from that 5 innings of that rain out in which, Olsen hit the bomb, and then Acuna, the other way, whatever it was, David Pearson, the rain out. Aside from that, they have all been close games, but again, the Braves continue to prove why they are not only the best team in the division right now, why they are one of the best in baseball. And if I'm being frank, with the talent that this Braves team has when they're fully healthy, they would have to royally fuck up to not have a deep run. The way that the Braves managed to royally fuck up, pardon my French, to the Phillies last year is the way that they would have to do that again this year. There's too much talent on this team for them not to have a deep run. But at the same time, that's how we felt about the Dodgers last year too. So on-field product on paper doesn't necessarily mean that is what it's going to amount to be and how deep of a playoff run you have. You just need to be hot at the right time. And that's what I'm most concerned about. But having said that, so frustrating watching this Mets team continuing to be. Just unbelievable. Nickel, thank you for $5 hollow. Nickel says, the Phils took off when they fired Girardi, but really when Rob played the Rockies, they took off. Buck has Vientos, Rod on bench. I mean, the Phils didn't take off when they fired Girardi. The Phils were still very the Phils were teetering 500 like all season long last year. They had a piss poor end to the season. The Phils were not a good team all year long last year. They had some hot streaks, but nothing consistent. They labored into postseason. But again, as soon as they got that series win over the Cardinals in the wild card, that's where they really got on a heater. And that's where the Braves, the Padres, couldn't stop them. There's a reason a Buck hasn't won the big one. I'm not going to bet too much into that personally. The reason why, Buck got screwed over. If you guys know the timeline of Buck Showalter, he got screwed with the Yankees. I promise you he would have at least one World Series ring right now if Steinbrenner decided to opt to keep him when, again, the Yanks were truly on the come up and thriving with a young manager in Showalter. They gave up on Buck too soon then. I feel very similarly about the Arizona Diamondbacks situation as well. Where things get interesting a little bit more is when he was with the Texas Rangers, and then, of course, the Baltimore Orioles. Those are the ones where it's like there's fair arguments, but especially while Buck started his career, I feel so confident that he would have won at least one chip if he stayed with the Yanks throughout those following years in which they had with Torrey. So that's just my thought. That I've always felt that way. At the same time, though, so not trying to sit here and defend Buck galore because I'm frustrated with Buck right now, but I don't think that whole factor of, oh, he hasn't won anything plays a massive factor, because Dusty Baker is one of the best managers in the game, and it took him how long to finally win a chip? Finally won one last year. I mean, it is far easier said than done to win a World Series, and we know that. And that's why we're going to go through misery for however long it may be until the Mets win their next one for the first time since '86. Let's see. Nickel, thank you so much for $5 holla again. He says, one of the hottest teams in the second half, dude. Okay, so you weren't the guy, so you didn't watch the final month and a half of the Phillies season last year, because if you did, you know that they were playing absolutely horrendous baseball. Like I said, they have their stretches of being hot, but to suggest that the Phillies were ever consistent last year is a farthest thing from the truth. Completely farthest thing from the truth. I watched that team. I watched a lot of their games in the final month along with the Mets. They were not playing good baseball at all. They labored into playoffs, and Phillies fans will tell you that. Let's see. Also, what's missing that makes the A6 Mets difference is swag. When Alonso was hit, Mets need to say F it, act like a winner, and not show a loser approach. Again, that's one of those things where it's like trying to hit the other team. I would have much rather the Mets retaliate by winning the ball game and dominating the ball game. And they got a spark for a little bit, but it wasn't enough, because the Braves are the Braves. They are who we know they are. Usually slumps are individual, but why is it when the Mets slump, it's a team thing? Again, it goes in hand with character, goes in hand with the clubhouse, goes in hand with the mindset. Those things play factors. They really do. But guys, I not one 300 hitter in this lineup. I know. McNeil is not the McNeil that we saw last year either. Like, there are a lot of things going in. McNeil was so pull heavy tonight too. I mean, just a lot of things going wrong. A lot of things going wrong for this team. They don't spread the field the way that they did so well last year. Starling Marte is a shell of what he once was. So many things are an issue with this Mets team. It's far more than one. From the offensive approach to the pitching approach, it's a cultivation of all these things that has led them to being 2 games below 500. And again, if they get on a 5-game winning streak, they repay it now in what has now been a 5-game losing streak. They have no moxie. Yes, I agree. They do not. Or if they have flashes of moxie, Buck decides to sit that moxie. Why? Because the vets got to play. The vets got to play. Just because you have a lot of depth on your team doesn't mean that you need to utilize it the way that Buck has, because it clearly has not been working, not nearly enough. I would hate the Braves so much if I was a Mets fan. Yeah, of course. I mean, Braves fans hate the Mets, even though it's been so lopsided over time too, which I honestly find a little bit more interesting than anything else. But again, rivalries are great, so we know that. But guys, I want to bring callers in. I'm done. I'm done talking about this with having other Mets fans' opinions, because I want to hear them. So guys, we're going to take some live callers. Let's do it. Let's see what this shit show is going to be. Again, guys, when you call in, of course, pause. Before we do callers, I got to let you guys know about my great friends at Sorare MLB for being a great sponsor on the channel as always. As many of you guys know, Sorare MLB is the best MLB fantasy game out there. You play for free. You don't have to spend a dime if you don't want to, unless you want to upgrade your team and really enter exclusive, limited, rare, super rare tournaments. But you draft your team the way that you would in MLB The Show and other great games. You enter weekly tournaments and you can win cash prizes, hundreds of thousands of dollars, free tickets to your favorite MLB team, and also free jerseys, free memorabilia, free VIP access to meet your favorite players. And now what we're doing on WardyNYM, just like we did in the month of May, we're doing the month of June. We are giving away a Francisco Alvarez jersey to one lucky Mets fan out there that goes ahead, signs up, clicking the link in the live chat in the description down below or in the comments for people on replay. You sign up to Sorare MLB, Wardy's unique league. You'll be playing against me and other Mets or even Braves fans, for Braves fans that are followers that want to join in. It's free to sign up, play, draft your team, enter weekly tournaments, and by you doing that, you are automatically entered for your chance at winning a Francisco Alvarez jersey, in which a winner will be randomly picked at the end of the month. So again, appreciate everyone that's been signing up. Thank you guys so much for the support, and shout out to Sorare MLB as always for being a great sponsor here on the channel. But let's get into it. Let's bring callers into the live show now, because right now I want to hear what your guys' opinions are. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I don't know how many callers I'm going to take, because I don't want tonight's show to be too long-winded. However, I'm going to try to take a decent amount, a handful of you guys at least. And again, all I ask when you guys, so what you're going to do if you want to call into the show, all you need to do is a couple things. One, you click the link that I'm going to pin to the live chat here in just a minute. It's going to say join in. It'll be through a StreamYard link. When you join, you don't need to have your camera on because you will not be physically shown on the screen. It'll just be your audio. But when you join, make sure it's the same name that you have here on YouTube so I know exactly who you guys are, and then we'll go through the list. And again, this is more of a Mets center thing, not to upset Braves fans, but again, I really want to hear Mets fans' frustration and perspective right now, dropping another series, losing 5 straight. Be honest, let it all out. This is a safe space for you Mets fans, so I want to hear what you guys have to say. So now I'm going to bring in the link for you guys to join, and we will go from there. I appreciate all the likes. Help us get to 200 likes, guys. Help us get 200 likes by the end of the live show. Greatly appreciate it. We're 80 away. Appreciate all the donations. You guys are beyond generous, and I love you all to death. Thank you, thank you, thank you, guys. It always does mean the world to me as we're breaking down the latest Mets game as they, of course, drop their series to the effing Atlanta Braves. Because why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they drop their series to the Atlanta Braves? God forbid if they didn't, right? Let me make sure that gets pinned as well in the chat. Okay, it's pinned. So all you guys got to do is click that link in order to call and enter. Again, I'm not taking every caller that calls in, guys, FYI. So some of you guys, unfortunately, will be waiting in the room, and I'm not going to take your call because I'm not going to be able to take everyone's. But I'm going to try my best to do a handful. And again, all you have to do is sign in using the same name that you have on YouTube. And just, one, talk about the Mets, share your raw frustrations, feelings, current stats about the team. If you have questions for me that you want to ask, by all means, go ahead and do that. Aside from that, though, that's all Sharon. Just be respectful more than anything, guys. Just please be respectful. And like I said, I'm not going to be able to take every caller. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, we're probably not going to be able to take all you guys. I'm going to try my best. But we'll get into it. Let's get into it. Let's just talk. Okay. Josh R., do you hear me?
Yes, hi, Wardy.
Hey, man, how are you?
Good, good. First off, love the contact. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. What you got for me? How you feeling?
Pretty rough 2 nights after they were up by 4. Kind of brought back last night. But I think the biggest thing right now is just Epler having so much emphasis on Vogie after all the trades last year. And today, hopefully, is the last day that he's in the lineup because enough is enough.
Yeah, enough is enough indeed. By the way, guys, just so you know, we are the show is full. We got 12 people waiting. I'm probably not going to be able to get to all 12 callers, so I apologize for anyone. I'll let you guys know who's lined up, however, when I'm going to cut things off. So if you guys can't call in this time, you'll be able to call in next time, just so everyone knows. But I'm limited with the people that I can even bring in, and it's going beyond that, so I already had to take the link down. But just know, guys, that next time we do callers, might even be tomorrow night. Then you can call in case you don't get a chance to call in tonight. But yeah, all right. So going back to Vogelback, let's talk about Vogelback for a second. Yeah, where do you stand on this front? Are you kind of just fed up the way that I am, where we're continuing to give a leash in a DH position that has little to no productivity, and the Mets have potential of seeing what they have in their younger internal options, but have yet to really do anything with them?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is keep not letting Vientos have his reign. Just give him a week playing time, whether it's a lefty or righty pitching, not worrying about the platoon so much because that's what Buck is so focused right now. And I think he just has to let that go for a week and see how Vientos does.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's crazy. It feels like it's a tall ask just to try to get a week straight of just Mark Vientos, but it really is. It really is. And that's the most frustrating thing. Most frustrating thing about this entire situation. Yeah, at minimum, just give him a leash for 1 week, and yet the Mets have not been able to do that. God forbid. It's driving me absolutely nuts. It really is.
And then the last thing I would add is just the pitch count. Even though these players are getting paid $43 million for Verlander and Scherzer, like if they're not having it after the 5th inning, like they gotta go.
Yeah. No. I agree with you, and that's another thing with this team. They have not gotten enough leash from their rotation, and that goes in hand with having the aging rotation that they have. This goes in hand with the risk that they took when they made these decisions. And if they continue to have such a short end of the stick rotation wise day by day, this is going to continue to be a recipe for disaster because they don't have the bullpen depth that can eat the innings. They don't have the Trevor Williams of the world. They don't have any quality lawn relievers, if that makes sense. They have some solid guys. Yeah, I mean, truly, there's only one guy that I trust in this bullpen almost nightly, and that's David Robertson. Aside from that,
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah,
aside from that, there's literally nothing. Like Rayleigh has shown his flashes, and I appreciate that. Same as Ottavino, but Ottavino's showing that if he is used the night before, that you can't use him. So that's another problem that we're seeing with this team. But Josh, before you get out of here, any final comments? And again, thank you for calling in. I appreciate it.
Just hopefully they can turn around. Still a long season ahead. But that's all I had. Thank you, Wardy.
All right, thank you, Josh. Have a good night. I appreciate that. Shout out to Josh. Guys, next callers, like I said, you guys are lined up. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get everyone, but I'm going to try my best. We got Mickey M, Nickel, AZ, Pats for Life, Jacob Pickney, Peter, Rainiel, Giovanni, Mets Hype, and Harrison. So that is the lineup currently, guys. So what we're going to do, because we have a lot of people on, not going to be able to have you guys be long-winded tonight. I want to have you guys share comments. So all I ask for everyone before I bring you in, have prepped in your head 1 to 2 questions you have. And if you need to go on a short little rant reaction to this team, by all means do it. Just be wary that there are people waiting behind you, so try not to be too long-winded. That's all I ask, because again, big night for the show. Again, big series loss, so I know you guys want to talk shop, so let's get into it. Let's see, next one is Mickey. Mickey, do you hear me?
Hey, brother. How you doing?
I could be better, man. How are you?
Same as you, man. Listen, I know Buck is gonna be the front of the firing squad in terms of getting all the blame of what's going on right now, but I think he's just really working with what he can
Yeah.
and just try to make the right calls when he can. I think all this really just falls on Epler at the end of the day. And this is his second year being the head honcho, so it's give or take. Like I want to give the guy a break, but at the same time, you know, it, I'm gonna reference something that just happened in terms of breaking news that happened yesterday with the Grom, right?
Sure.
So my issue, and this is gonna be related to, for example, Vientos. My issue is that when the Grom was pitching for the Mets, he gave his best years, if you ask me, and now he's on the injured list. Chances are this could be a season-ending situation for him. And I saw the video of him crying, and the first thing I thought about in my head was, I think the reason he's crying because he's probably realizing he's never going to win a championship, despite how amazing he was.
Not
And now
only
I'm
that,
looking
but
at,
his chances at the Hall are pretty much gone, similar to David
yeah.
Wright, which sucks.
Exactly. So now I look at something like, oh, Vientos, like what's up? The Mets are just always wasting talent at the end of the day, or wasting the best years of talent. And it bothers me because I don't give a crap who's getting paid or what contract is what. If you're not producing, you need to sit down and figure your life out, man. And that's what's really bothering me right now, specifically with the bullpen. So I guess my question to you, honestly, is who can be brought up bullpen wise, because we got hitters already. We already brought up the babies. I love all the babies. I think it's time to start bringing up pitchers, at least to see what you have before trade deadline. Because at the moment, if we're going to be heading into trade deadline like this, I think we're going to be giving up an entire farm for arms.
Yeah, the Mets are in a really tricky situation with their bullpen. It's a good question because, you wonder what you could get in a Joey Lucchesi, who has thrived really well since being sent back down. Could he be used as a multi-aim reliever, especially with how much this rotation has struggled to eat quality innings consistently every fourth or fifth day? David Peterson, is he a guy that you want to give an opportunity again to see in a more limited relief role, or is that too going to be a shit show like what he was when he was with the Mets earlier this year? From that point, you can make these arguments. Then you think about, okay, what are some guys that are true relievers? I mean, Grant Hartwig, who went from all the way single A all the way to triple A in a calendar year span, was off to a very sharp start this year. Has been laboring as of late from last I saw. I haven't looked at his numbers in a couple weeks, so I have to see. I was looking now, but he was a name that I had my eye on for a while. TJ McFarland has been having a solid year, veteran southpaw in the pen there, but again, very hittable. The only way the Mets are going to get anywhere with their pen this year is if they do external upgrades. And thankfully, there is a market, but the Mets will probably have to pay a premium, and that's something that I don't know if the Mets are going to be willing to do, depending on where they are leading up to the trade deadline, where they stand, things of that nature. There's going to be a lot of nice relievers available. I plan to discuss them in content soon on really breaking down, like way too early trade targets, because there's a lot of arms that we see out there, but the issue is that there really aren't a lot of guys down there that you can justify trying to give an opportunity, because
You know what I would say?
it'll be at the expense of DFAing some guys, curling the pen that you still may want as innings eaters right now. Because a lot of these guys in the Mets pen don't have minor league options, so that too is an issue.
I completely agree with you. I think my only issue in just looking at what the team is going on right now, what's going on with the team rather, is that it's already a shit show. So really, how much more worse can it get? Like if you're gonna if you're gonna bring up people, bring up Peterson, bring up whoever you gotta bring up at this point. It's already a shit show. If your starters cannot last more than 5 innings, you are losing. It's funny. The minute we got tied yesterday, and the minute we got tied today, I already knew it. I'm still watching the game, but I'm playing it in the background because I already knew we were losing. Because they once you take out your starter, we're done. We're absolutely done at this point.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And it's something that we're going to have to continue to deal with. And sadly, I think we're not at the lowest point of the season yet. But I do think that we will reach a high point that we certainly haven't seen. And that's the biggest thing we're riding on and hoping for at this point. But I think Mickey just left. So regardless, Mickey, appreciate you calling in, Mickey. That means a lot. Pat, thank you for the $5 haul, and we'll get into the next callers and comments. And again, guys, try to be a little bit rapid fire if you can, just for the sake of not only time, but knowing that we have a lot of callers lined up, and I want to try to squeeze you guys all in if I possibly can. Pat, thank you so much. He says, face of worry, the only way we can beat the Braves is have the Phillies play them. That's funny. I appreciate that donation. I know that the Mets can beat the Braves. It's not the matter of them being able to beat them or not. We saw that last year. But the Mets have now haven't they lost 10 of their last 12 games to Atlanta? It's been that bad. And that sucks because, again, the Braves are really good. Next caller is going to be MV, who was beyond gracious with his donations earlier. So thank you so much, Nickel. How are you?
Hey, Wardy. Good evening.
Good evening.
So I agree with what they were saying about Vientos, and he needs to play because they're basically whatever he's built up in the minors, they basically let it go to rot by sitting him on the bench. But the two things I'll say, and then I'll hang up so you can bring other people, is I agree. There's some moxie missing from this team. Mm-hmm. Other YouTubers were saying that there's no leader, and I'm saying that maybe if there was a leader, then someone would have called for a closed door meeting, and I haven't heard anybody do that yet. That's one. The second thing is also, I don't know, have you heard anything about the car? I have not heard anyone talk about Lindor buying McNeil a car.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, nothing. Yeah,
and
that's
to me,
gone nowhere. Yeah, that's good.
That's gone nowhere. It's almost like there's a hush regarding this topic, this is just more food for fire that something is missing. I
literally thought about that like a month ago too. I was like, this was brought up multiple times through media trying to drag it out, and McNeil would jokingly answer, nothing yet. Lindor would say, we'll see. And for all we know, maybe something did happen that like we're just not aware of. But there could be something there, to your point, and I get what you're saying.
Well, and again, you're not old enough. I am, so I remember the '86 Mets, and I know that there were great players like Straw and Doc on that team, but the guy that to me was the stir of that team was Ray Knight. The minute Ray Knight left, the Mets have been chasing the ring ever since. There's a fire guy missing from this team. Like everybody is the same. It doesn't matter who you interchange in the lineup. Like everybody is the same. There's no. I'm not calling for a Paul O'Neill, but you need someone who's going to be different than everybody else on this team.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's like you almost need someone to come in to not necessarily be like a culture change, because I don't think the Mets have a bad culture, and I really commend what Buck helped build this past year. But it feels like the Mets may need that type of spark. It's not the same fashion; it'll be different. but the way that Cespedes drastically impacted this team as soon as he stepped foot here. Something along those lines is, I think, where you can make that argument. Doesn't necessarily need to be a leader, but again, a veteran that brings an automatic weapon in your lap that makes everyone feel more confident knowing that they have protection around them. Like stuff like that. Those little things go a long way. And as great as Alvarez has been, and he in himself has been a huge spark plug, as great as Beatty has been in spurts, he's still trying to find himself. And I'm not harping on Beatty too much. I still want him starting every day through his struggles. It's important to give him his reps. But then you also have Vientos, another guy. Like, for all we know, Vientos really could be more of that spark, but we're never going to find out if you don't give him the set opportunities. And that's why it's imperative for the Mets to give him this opportunity now to know what you have. And then, if you don't have enough, seek things externally, but it's not for a lack of effort on the Mets' part.
Right, and this will be the last thing I say. And that's why when I made my mention about Rob Thompson, I'm not a Rob Thompson fan, but the difference, what Girardi was being accused of, he was living and dying with his veterans, kind of like what Buck is doing.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
and until they got rid of Girardi, and Rob played these veterans, getting rid of Didi, I'm not saying they went on a tear, but that was the difference the team needed. And the fact is, you bring these guys up that were killing it, and you're letting them rot. It's almost like, hey, I'm going to live and die with my veterans. But why would you do that if they're not performing for you? It's about performance.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And again, if there's any positive at all to come out of this, you have to hope that the Mets go through hell and back now when there's time to fix things. The same way that this point last year, the Braves were in a very similar spot. The same way that the Phillies were in a much deeper hole, right? So there's time. But the biggest thing is that the Mets need to make sure that they properly address things and don't sit on their hands before it's too late, what they famously did last year. I hope that this adversity proves what they feel that they need to do, and urgently, sooner than later, versus a Mets team that didn't have much adversity last year in the sense of they overcame everything. But then as we got to a month after the trade deadline, they had their first big slump, and they never knew how to really overcome that. Mets have had their fair share of slumps. They've had their worst one in since 2021 as we speak right now. So just things that, again, they need to work out these kinks, and hopefully, again, they can do so with the time that they have. But, Nickel, I got to let you go, so I appreciate you calling in, my man. And thank you for the donations again. I appreciate that a lot.
You're welcome.
Shout out to MV for calling in. Really does mean a lot. Next, we have AZ, Pats for Life, Ray Neal, Musi at Mets Hype, Giovanni, and Mad Mike. Let me get to some donation here, then we'll go forward. Face of Worry. Oh, I answered that already. Thank you so much. Did I miss a dono? No, I don't think I did. Appreciate everyone watching live on our replay as we are, in fact, taking live callers here for my fellow Mets fans as the Mets drop their latest series to the Atlanta Braves, losing by a final score of 7-5. So now let's bring in who has been a consistent caller, is our good friend AZ. AZ, I'm sure you got a lot to say. Just hit me with your raw thoughts off the dome and what you want to discuss.
I mean, I've been so used to Mets pain for as long as I've been a Mets fan. I've been completely numb to it, but I'm pissed.
Yeah, you're telling me. Yeah, you're telling me.
I'm pissed. I'm a lot of good points from the other callers, but I think it comes up to Buck. He's too soft on this team. We kind of need our own Brian Snicker, the guy that can rally around this team, around the team, like he had, like that famous talk he had against when they lost the series against the Diamondbacks. He rallied this team around, and they're still the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, no, I mean, there is something to be said about the moxie or lack thereof that this team has, and that is something that you can attribute and look at Buck in that sense. And it's something where you have to wonder how the Mets are going to be able to overcome this, should they overcome it throughout the season.
And there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of good points. They need that guy, that guys like Yoenis Cespedes and Ray Knight of the 86 Minutes mentioned by the other caller. And they kind of need that leader to help this team in future slumps and rally them around.
Yeah, No, I agree with you. And like I said, there are things clearly missing from this team in a lot of different ways. And as I said to the previous caller, if there's one thing that we can look at is that we can hope that because it's fairly early in the year still, that we're not even at the halfway mark yet, that they can find the remedy and the ways to kind of get this team not only in unison, but banking off of each other in a way that they really haven't on a night-to-night basis so far this year.
It's tough because I love the new wave of Mets talent. Beatty, Vientos, but Beatty, Vientos, Mauricio coming up soon. Francisco Alvarez, he's a monster out there.
Oh yeah.
But the problem is why it's same with all the other people that mentioned it. Why is Vientos rotting on the bench?
I mean,
Why you put
I've got nothing else to say on that front. I've said it all.
and why are you keeping that black hole in Vogelbag? I love the guy, but he can't hit a fly if he wanted to.
No, I mean, if there's one thing that Vogelback does better than anyone else in baseball, it's taking pitches. The issue is that he takes every pitch. It doesn't matter if it's a fastball right down the pipe. It doesn't matter if it's a slider 2 feet in. Like, he's going to take every pitch, and that is in itself an issue. He's not locked in at all. He knows that the media is pressing about him, and he's not handling it well, in my opinion, in regards to what his on-field product is showing. And I know it's easier said than done. Don't get me wrong. If I was in his shoes, still getting opportunities and struggling, I would have a real mental problem with my own self. But with that being said, we can't give in to these guys just because we like them when we know that they're playing factors into losing games each night. So the same would go for anyone else on the team. If you're in a prolonged slump, when the Mets have players to at minimum give an opportunity and see what they have them early in the year, you have to do it, or else what are we doing here? I mean, at this point, you might as well just send Vientos down array if you're not going to play him. Like, Vientos is going to play tomorrow, but again, it's too little too late. Mets already lost the series. And this
That's
is
true.
something that they need to get their head out of their ass and try to figure out. But AZ, before I get you out of here, do you have any questions in particular, or any final remarks?
It's been mostly the same. It's time to get some confidence back in these guys because they look shot. And all I gotta say is, no matter what, it's gotta keep rooting for this team. Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets. I appreciate that, AZ. Have a good night. Thank you for calling in. Okay, now let's get to our next caller in Pats for Life. I don't agree on the name, but I appreciate the support. How's it going, my man?
Hey, Wardy, can you hear me?
Yeah, how are you?
I'm good. How's your night going?
Could be better, but I appreciate you asking. What you
I
got for
appreciate
me?
you having me on the show.
Yeah, of course. What you got for me?
So, like, obviously the Mets have been absolute dog shit lately, and
Yeah.
just the way they've been performing is just pitiful, and they have no fight in them at all.
None.
Lindor, when we brought him over from Cleveland, obviously we wanted him to have a paternal role in us Mets, but absolute no fight from him, and he's not showing any role really, like paternal role in leading the Mets to wins. He's just everyone's flailing, and the whole entire team looks lifeless, and the pitching just looks terrible. And then when we have bats, when their bats are alive and we're having runs on the board, then our pitching just falls apart. Just we can't get both sides like on the same night to get wins. Like, it's always just never going right for us.
Yeah, I know. Sadly, what you're saying, it's like a broken record, right? Tonight was deja vu. It just sucks. As soon as I saw Pham hit that home run, I was the farthest thing from confident that I'm like, oh, we're winning this ball game. You know, like, it just, there's no comfortability with this team. It's so different versus last year, where you, for like, oh my God, for the portion of for the largest portion of the season, you felt like once the Mets had a lead in certain points that they were golden, or you felt like if they were down, you knew that they were going to come back as soon as they start to get to the bullpen. You knew Alonso would be a massive factor in that. Now it's just like we are clawing and hoping for the little bit of crumbs that you call a win after salvaging a series versus being swept. Again, it's so beyond frustrating and tiring. It's crazy because I know that the Mets had a far worse season in 2021 than what they will ultimately have this year, but this just stains so much worse because of the expectations this club had heading into the year.
Yeah, definitely. When you look back at previous seasons, like the 2019 Nationals and the 2021 Atlanta Braves, when both those teams they got both of them won rings. The difference between those teams and the Mets, well, take a look at the 2021 Braves. The Braves were in a spot against the Mets in the middle of the season, and they were about to sell, and they took a series against the Mets, and the whole entire season shifted for them. And had so much fight. They got Soler, they got Peterson.
Yep.
The whole entire season shifted, and they had so much fight and fire in them. And the difference between that team and the Mets, like the past few years, is that they can go out and make acquisitions at the deadline and they still won't have any fire in them. Like last year, they got Vogie and they got Ruff, who's absolute horse shit last year. He was terrible. Ruff didn't hit anything.
And of course, Vogelback is becoming this year's version of Ruff. It's like the Mets just can't get a break at the DH right now.
Yeah, if right now the Mets, they have to cut Vogie and they have to go out and get like Luis Robert on the White Sox, and maybe
that isn't happening as much as I would love for that to happen.
I'm saying the White Sox could very potentially sell by the deadline.
They
maybe
will
they can get
sell
Liam Hendricks
for sure, but
maybe Liam Hendricks. That's
not happening.
Liam Hendricks is very, very realistic. That's definitely possible.
I agree. I agree. Hendricks is definitely in the cards, and I think what it would take to get a Hendricks is someone like Mark Vientos, which is why the Mets need to have him playing regardless on where it is. If the Mets decide to trade him, they need to make sure that they at least gave him opportunities or to keep him in AAA so he can really juice up those numbers like he did to start the year. So, like, that's the thing. The Mets will be more inclined to part with one of those prospects should they get a return like a Hendricks or whoever it may be. But they need to give them leash because right now, Vientos' trade value is dying by the day because we're just letting him rot on the bench.
Besides that, he's just sitting on the bench. He's looking at his team and all of his teammates, and they all look lifeless. It must be killing him mentally. Just like why are you doing this to him? You might as well put him in AAA and build him up and juice him up. So I don't know what they're doing with him, and the fact they haven't DFA'd Vogie is just pathetic. And the fact that Narvaez didn't start tonight is also sad. He just came back from his injuries. Let him start. I don't know what they're thinking, but this is the New York Mets we're talking about. So yeah, Billy Epler really knows what he's doing when it comes to this.
I like the sarcasm there. You sound like me. But before I get you out of here, Pats, you got anything else for me?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you for having me on the show. Have a good night.
I appreciate you too, man. Thank you. Shout out Pats for Life. We got Ray Neal, Mets Hype, Gio, and Mike, and then that's going to do it for the night. So let's get into Ray Neal. My man, how are you?
Hello there.
How you doing tonight?
Not happy.
Nah, yeah, neither am I. What you got for me? What do you want to talk about?
This Mets team has to change.
How do you think they should change?
I will sit out Daniel Vogelbach.
Okay.
I will sit out Daniel Vogelbach and Brandon Nimmo, and then put Solo Marte and
Nimmo.
Well, I would think about it because I don't want to sit Brandon Nimmo, but I'm just always saying. But I would think about it.
I wouldn't do
just
that.
always saying. But
Okay.
I will sit out like Daniel Vogelbach, and I will put somebody else on there, and then I will change our pitchers.
What would you do with the pitching?
I would, we got a lot of injuries, so I will make it much better. I will put our Chinese pitcher in, and then
He's
Matt
Japanese, but
Scherzer,
yes.
and then Matt Scherzer to play, and then take him out in the second inning, then put another pitcher in, then take him out, then put our closer, and then see the game goes up to a tie game. I will put on a lefty, and then change our catcher.
So what you're saying is you can fill in for Buck Showalter right now.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I appreciate that, Rainiel. Do you have any actual questions before I get you out of here?
I think Lindor needs to wake up. Lindor's not doing no good now.
Okay. I agree that Lindor needs to be better than what he's been. I appreciate that he's been hitting a lot of extra base hits, which is nice. But I agree that we need more consistency out of him, to say the
And
least.
same thing with Pete Alonso, but he got injured. I saw that.
Yeah. So we'll give Pete the pass tonight because he got hurt, right? But Rainiel, I appreciate you calling in, my friend. So have a good night, okay?
Have a good night.
Shout out Rainiel for calling in. He sounds tired. He sounds upset. And he sounds like a fan that is just, not happy about his Mets. So now let's bring in Mets hype. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mets hype. Where do I please know that I apologize. Do I know you from something? Because why does the Mets hype name sound familiar? Is that just
I've talked to you in the past, and we've on Twitter and whatnot.
Okay, that's probably why then. Awesome. All right, man.
Sure. I used to have a site, but it never really materialized, so I let it go.
Okay, fair enough. I appreciate you calling in, man. How are you?
Yeah, how are you, man? Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thanks for waiting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it all goes back to Epler. I mean, I know they're not going to get rid of him, and I don't think they're going to get rid of Buck either. It's just tough to know where the decisions are coming from, honestly. So, I mean, it kind of started with last offseason, whether it's going for Canna and Escobar and, not going for Schwarber, or the trading deadline going for Vogelback and Ruff. I just think that, all the decisions that have been made by Epler has not worked out. And I think not playing the kids or choosing not to play the kids, I think that's Epler also. I think when they put the kids up there and the kids do well, it just justifies the fact that he didn't make the right moves or bring the right players in here to make this team better. I think Buck is kind of a company guy, and I don't necessarily think all the decisions are coming from him. And I think he's taking the brunt as like the veteran and the front man. But I think a lot of the decisions are coming from Epler. And I think we're not going to really see a lot of changes until something happens that holds these players or the GM accountable. And I think that's going to have to come from Steve. I can't see this billionaire seeing $350 million go down the drain and watch this team crumble when there is an opportunity for him to do something. So I think he has to get pissed and he has to make a big move. I just don't think it's going to be Buck or Epler. So I think something maybe lower to hold them accountable might send a message to them. Maybe it's DFAing Vogelback or the hitting coach Barnes, even though I know he's not doing everything. Just something that sends a message that holds some of these players and Epler accountable.
Yeah, it's like we've already seen those messages begin with the kids being brought up, right? Because I know that's separate from Alvarez because that was a unique situation thanks to Narvaez's injury. And in hindsight, thank God that happened because everything worked out. Like we would have never knew what we truly had in Alvarez if he wasn't rushed up as soon as he was. But Beatty again was brought up because the Mets held Escobar accountable for his performance or lack thereof, right? That's why they brought him up. Then Vientos, they brought him up. Why? Because the Mets entering that game, that series against the Rays in which I was there, they were like this right now. Just a 500 team, not performing well, not driving the ball out of the park. Vientos gives them life, and in doing so, they've given him very little reps since then, and that is another frustration I still have that I've talked a lot about. But it's like, okay, so the Mets have done that internally. How much more can they do that internally? Well, you have this guy by the name of Ronnie Mauricio who leads all the minor leagues in hits. A lot of talent. They're starting to finally give him reps in left field. They have at second base. He's had some errors. He definitely needs to work on his defense more, and he also needs to, work on his strike zone a bit. But he isn't striking out at the same rate he was last year. He's taking some more pitches. Not a walks guy, but again, that's not the biggest issue here. But Mauricio, when he's healthy from his ankle injury, whenever that may be, you'd have to imagine the Mets try to consider things there to shake things up more. Again, it starts with giving Vientos playing time. I firmly believe they need to give him at minimum, just God forbid, just give him at minimum a week and a half of just reps. What? There's no reason not to. You have nothing to lose right now. You have these players. Go ahead.
Where do you think these? Sorry for interrupting me.
No,
where do you think these decisions are coming from? I mean, Vientos comes up, they bring him up, great move, hits a 2-run homer to tie it. benched the next day.
It's
I
a
mean,
combination.
it's Pham hits a two home runs on Sunday. He was benched for 2 days. He was benched today too. If Pete never got hurt, Pham's not in the game and he doesn't hit the home run.
Yeah.
He almost hit another big hit, and Acuna made that great play. But Pham was sitting again, back-to-back games after 2 home runs. I mean, even the catching situation. I'm not saying Sanchez was the answer, but they did have a guy for 6 at bats. They dropped Sanchez for Nido. Sanchez is on fire.
He has 4 home runs with
He's
the
on fire.
Padres already. He's a saving grace.
Right. And then Nito's dropped in not even a week. So I mean, who's making these decisions? I don't really know. I don't think it's Buck. I just don't think that anything's going to happen to Epler.
Yeah, I mean, Epler isn't going anywhere right now. Whether we like it or not, he certainly isn't. And I don't hate Epler. I've liked a lot of the moves that he has done personally. However, he has been underwhelming in the trade front, especially when evaluating the moves that he's made to try to bring in talent and give up assets, including relievers in the process. He has lost more than he has won, more than likely in that regard, if we really go back and do the homework. But it's a cultivation of things, because again, Vientos was the driving force behind bringing up Vientos when they did. But then Buck is, of course, playing that factor into not starting him or deciding not to pinch hit him later in the game. Like the fact that Vogelback played the entire night at DH today is a travesty. And I hate that I'm being so nitpicky about him in particular, but the point stands. It's a gaping hole in this lineup, and the Mets have done what? Tell me what the Mets have done with the DH positions since we had universal DH. They have done nothing with it. We saw that spark in 2020 with Conforto, Dom Smith, all these guys thriving, and we were like, oh my God, this Mets team with DH is going to be amazing. JD Davis, and it all fell flat on its face. The Mets last year gave their first 20 games to Robinson Cano, cut him, and there's a reason why he's never going to play a game in the bigs again. Then you go on to Dom Smith, JD Davis, doing that duo. What have you got? You got nothing out of it leading up to the traded line, and then you rush your kids up. It didn't give enough. Put Darren Ruff in a limited role, and he couldn't handle the bright lights in Queens. And Vogelback, who was great for a month and then really cooled off a bit. Tyler Naquin had his flashes, but Naquin is not an everyday player in baseball for a reason. And now you fast forward to today, the Mets have internal options, but they're continuing to go with veteran spots here. It's like, on top of this too, it even pisses me off that they didn't even give Escobar some justified opportunities in the DH spot, especially against the lefty. It's okay to DH Eddie every now and then, and having him face the lefty from the right-hand side versus needing him to start at, say, second base, and then putting Jeff in the corner. Buck has really head-scratched me with his decisions this year.
So you think it's more Buck, or you think it's more like the analytics team? And
it's both. It's both, especially with lineup configuration. Buck has his opinions, and he looks at the numbers that the analytics group through the Mets organization gives him. That's what they provide. So his job is to take that information and think what he does best. But one of the biggest thing that this team still faults is having, what DH is killing it? JD Martinez. Yes, I know all things Mets. Granted, JD again had some massive back problems, and it was, of course, going to be a team like the Dodgers to make him thrive. I firmly believe if JD Martinez was a Met right now, he wouldn't be thriving the way he is in LA, because the Dodgers turn anything mediocre to gold again. That's how it works.
Probably if the Dodgers didn't have his ex-hitting coach, he might have came here,
That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually forgot about that. But going back to the decisions, again, Buck gets this information, and then ultimately he's making these decisions. But as I've emphasized so much, the main thing that the Mets have struggled so much with this year is not riding a hot hand for the life of them. They do it in spurts, but they don't do it enough. To your point, Tommy Pham, hitting the ball really well lately. Okay, we're going to sit him. Mark Canha, hitting the ball really well lately. Okay, we're going to sit him. Mark Vientos, hitting the ball lately. We're going to sit him. Brett Beatty having RBIs in 3 to 4 straight games. We're going to sit him in the next 2 days. It's those things, right? And they're going to say, Buck's going to say, well, it's lefty and lefty, and Brett doesn't look great versus lefty. Okay, but he's a rookie. It's almost like it's not a bad idea to let a rookie get reps versus all types of pitching, regardless on how much he struggles, so that way he can get acclimated. Because this is a Mets team that's so anal about focusing on both short-term and long-term. Well, the long-term aspect is getting impacted greatly if you're not playing these kids every day. So don't get me wrong. I know you're focusing on trying to win now too, but by having said balance means that you give the kids a rightful leash on a day-to-day, and they continue to struggle with that, and I really do hope it changes.
Yeah, I think. I mean, even Beta, those last hits that you're talking about, that was against a lefty, like big hits against lefty, and he was benched the next day. So, I mean, they did the same thing with Nimmo, if you remember from the beginning. And look at him against lefties now. So it's just, it's. I think the analytics have a lot to do with it, and like you said, it's a collaboration. But I think that they're just heavy on the analytics. Why else would you sit somebody that has a good game? I mean, it's especially when you're not raking. And offense is at a premium. When somebody has a good game, it's pretty common sense to start them the next day. So,
no, I agree with you, man. But Matt Type, I appreciate you calling in. You got anything
thanks
for me
for the
before
time, man. I appreciate it.
You got anything else for me before I get you out of here?
No, I think I said a lot. You gave me a lot of time. I appreciate it, man. So
okay.
God bless, man. Appreciate it.
You too. God bless. Appreciate you waiting. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Shout out to Matt Type for calling in. It really does mean a lot when guys wait long to call on. We got 2 more callers, and that's going to be it for the night. Gio, Mike, and we're going to start here with Gio. Gio, what you got for me, my friend?
Hey, Wardy.
Hey,
terrible loss, man. I don't know what to say, man, but this has been too much this past few months, man, and I don't know. Like I've been watching, and these lineups has not produced anything, man.
Yeah, I mean, even like, when they've had even when they've had the pretty lineup.
Yeah, like our big guys are not producing. Lindor, especially with that how many $10 million to 11 years, and he's like in one of his big slumps. I mean, that home run yesterday really, I mean, it helped him guide him out of that slump. It will give him some confidence, and but now I believe Lindor is over like 3 now, over 4. He's not producing too much now. This lineup is not producing too much, to be honest.
Lindor did have a double today. Don't forget that. It's easy to forget. But yeah, no, I mean the lineup as a whole, though, yes. They even when they've had the perfect lineup on paper, which has been few and far in between, even when that's happened, we haven't seen it thrive the way that we hope it would. And that goes in hand with not playing guys consistently enough. And just this team not having that rhythm, that flow, that moxie that you're hoping to get like they did so famously well for a good portion of their season last year.
Right, because especially the Vogelback thing is really killing me, man. I remember last year, I can't believe how do we trade Colin Holderman to get Vogelback? And once I saw Vogelback's name, I was like, come on, man. I had a feeling this guy's not. He's gonna be useless. And look what's happening right now.
I know Holderman would be a saving grace for this bullpen
just
right
because
now.
we trade.
And Joe Sorare, my co-host for the Queen's Corner podcast, was dying for him right now. I mean, I loved Holderman when he was here. It did sting, but again, Vogie's first month and a half here was great. So like it wasn't one of those things where you're mad at the time, but in hindsight, yeah, you're not happy about it because you would be getting more production out of Holderman if he was here.
And he cannot even run fast, and he's a guy that gets into double plays really easily. So it's just really annoying, because these Mets players are being keeping heading to double play each and every time, especially Vogelback. Just the one in the 5th inning where, and I'm gonna tell you this, the Mets are not stealing bases. What is going on with Nimmo lately? These past few games.
I think they're just trying to avoid injury because, to your point, the Mets started off the first month and a half this year stealing every bag in their mother. Like they were one of the best base stealing teams in baseball, and they've slowed down a lot since then. And I don't know what the reasoning is for it. I don't know if they just don't like the matchups, if they are afraid of injuries. I think it's a cultivation of all those things because the base stealing threat's huge. We know that. We've seen the Braves work their magic a little bit in this series in that regard. But this team definitely, they've never had that true speed element. And Marte, who's known for Marte, again, is going to have easily 30 plus stolen bases this year. And that's awesome. He's already north of 20 as we speak. But Marte is very sporadic when he likes to use his speed as well, because let's face it, Marte's never going to be the guy that he was at the peak of in his career again. He's only going to hustle kind of when he wants to because he doesn't want to push things in certain moments. And that's just one of many things that is frustrating about this team right now. There's a lot of things just not in their favor at the moment.
Right, especially the old guys. Like I don't like to be honest. I kind of didn't want the Mets to too many old players. Like you always say, it's time to let the kids have their chances. It's good. It's not that bad to become young again. You need to let these guys like Vientos, Beatty, Alvarez, give these guys chances. And hopefully we can get up like Ronnie Mauricio, who's been hitting the minor leagues really well. And it sucks that they keep relying on veterans day night and day out.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I just hope that this comes to an end sooner or later, or it's going to be one of the many demises of this 2022 club, 2023 club, I should say, to say the least. But Gio, before I get you
And
out
let
of
me tell
here,
you something.
do you have any final remarks for me?
Well, it's just a little. I just want to make it short, but even though I had a lot to say, but we can do another call up soon. But I just want to let you know you're doing a great job, Wardy. I always enjoy watching your show every day,
I
every night.
appreciate that.
Doing your post game shows. You should. To be honest, you should go to SNY and do. You should be like Gary Apple someday and do your post game show. You just be. You just have feelings. Tell them that you could be like a really good analyst. And at the same time, I recommend you watch the Phillies post game on their YouTube. They're on the CBS Philadelphia. Those guys like Michael Barkan and Ricky Bottaligo, they show emotion for everything when they lose or when they do mistakes. So I really hope Gary Apple and Todd do the same thing. To give some emotion because you're passionate about your team. The
Right.
Phillies guys are like passionate about their team, so I really hope the Mets could do the same thing.
Yeah, no, again, I appreciate the
But I
compliment, the
recommend you watching
support.
those TVs too.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate all the kind words, man. That means a lot. And the funny thing is that, don't get me, I'm not a fan of the Phillies broadcast or their post game guys in the slice just because it's Philly. But to your point, yeah, it is nice to see passion. And I know that some people are like, well, that's unprofessional because there's a bias, but I think there's a difference when you have that in the booth, which is what we've seen broadcasters do, which I agree with. You shouldn't have a bias, like obvious, versus a post-game show that is catered solely for that specific local team. That's the whole point of it being a local post-game show. That's why SNY, it's local for the Mets. It's not the Atlanta Braves post-game show. It's the Mets post-game show. So to your point, yes, I think sharing emotion, especially after heated games, win or lose, is imperative to show to the public eye. We live in a world right now where you don't see a lot of that yet at the kind of corporate television level, but I really do think that will change sooner than later because it's already beginning. And thankfully, people like myself are kind of helping in that regard, and networks are starting to realize that more and more. So hopefully sooner than later, what you said comes to fruition because I think it's a good idea.
Man, thank you so much for having me, Wardy. Hopefully we'll get that win tomorrow. Enjoy the sweep, and God bless you and your family and friends. You just keep doing what you have to do, and just take care of yourself, all right? And take care of with you and your family in this weird time, especially with the smoke going on around. So just be careful outside, all right?
I appreciate that, Gio. And same goes to you. Same sentiment with you and your family. God bless, brother. Appreciate the kind words again. Have a good night. Shout out to Gio for being an absolute sweetheart. Really, really does mean a lot. Appreciate that support. And now, before we get out of here, last but not least, is Mad Mike. Mike, do you hear me?
I hear you fine, Wardy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, my friend?
Been better considering the Mets and all the smoke that's going on here in Jersey.
Yeah, what's how bad has it been in Jersey? Because I don't reside there, but I've heard it hasn't been good today either.
2 words: Bowser's Castle.
Oh, fantastic! That's actually it's actually funny you say that because I was at the barber and they were playing the Super Mario Bros. Movie, so I had the pleasure of listening.
No spoilers, please.
Bowser. Okay.
No spoilers.
I won't spoil it.
I haven't seen it yet. No spoilers.
Oh well, that's shame on you first and foremost. But getting on the Mets topic, what do you got for me? Any specific questions you want to get into?
Well, first off, tough loss, but I had a feeling this would go bad once Vogelback grounded into that double play. He needs to be DFA'd. No question about it. He needs to be out. Everyone needs to admit that the trade was a failure and hold himself and the team accountable. Secondly, I know you're a big hockey guy, Wardy, and I gotta bring this up. The Mets need their Play Gloria moment. The St. Louis Blues started all this when they brought up Binnington in 2019, when they were last in the NHL on New Year's Eve. When they started Binnington, they went on that massive tear on the way to the Stanley Cup. The Phillies last year, they got rid of Girardi, brought in Thompson. They went all the way to the World Series, didn't win it, but they went from worst to almost best in baseball. What's the Mets' play glory moment going to be? We're waiting on that. Now, the Mets, I don't know what else to say about them except we've been getting outclassed by the Braves in every aspect since the Wilpon era. While Steve Cohen has changed the culture a bit, it's just not enough until you bring the right staff in. You need the right president of baseball operations, the right GM, and the right coaching staff. So far, nothing yet, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
I truly hope so. I guess here's a question for you because we're going to be wrapping soon, but I want to hear your opinion on this. What do you think is going to be the ultimate outcome for the Mets this year, from trade deadline to the conclusion of the season? And this is with putting as much bias as humanly possible aside. I don't want to hear what you want. I want to hear what you genuinely think is going to happen. Break it down for me.
At this rate, I don't see Epler doing much at the trade deadline. If he does, it'll be to only save his own hide from the chopping block.
Okay.
He's been a failure as a GM. Plain and simple. He's been a failure since his Anaheim days. Personally, putting all bias aside, I see us on the mid to high end of 80 wins, 85 to 87 wins, and we'll probably either just miss the wild card or be the last wild card at this rate. Okay. Now, the Mets can't prove me wrong. They've done it before. But it's a question of, will the right changes be made in time? Again, you saw it with the St. Louis Blues in the NHL. You're a big hockey guy. You're a big hockey guy with your New York Rangers channel. You saw it with the Philadelphia Phillies last year. Mets, it's your turn. What is your play Gloria moment going to be?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. You know, it feels like these teams that have their runs, again, have that adversity throughout at minimum the first half of the season in its entirety. And then they either do some internal changes, either with the coaching staff, or just make the proper moves by the trade deadline, in which, again, a team like the Braves did so famously well 2 years ago. So, no, I agree with you. It's something that we're going to be following along and hoping that the Mets can right the ship sooner than later. But I think the sentiment is certainly there on your part, as it is with mine, when saying that, yeah, this team certainly needs to make the proper adjustments and make them before they're too late, not sit on their hands the way that they did last year. But with that being said, Mike, do you have any final questions for me before we wrap things up?
Yeah, question for you, Wardy.
Sure.
What would you do in this situation? You just lost 2 of 3 to the Braves. You've got a series with the Pirates coming up. What would you do if you were in Steve Cohen's shoes right now?
It's tough because Cohen himself isn't going to go all, Steinbrenner and not current Steinbrenner, his father, and go out and just make these drastic changes and, nitpick everything. But if I was in physical control of the Mets right now, in any way, shape, or form, the first thing I would do is get Daniel Vogelbach out of the starting lineup, put him on the bench at minimum, if not cut him. Put Mark Vientos at the DH spot for at minimum the next week and a half, 2 weeks straight. Francisco Alvarez be given playing time, playing at minimum every 2 of 3 games a series at the starting catching position. Offensively, that's pretty much all that needs to be done for now, aside from also moving up Alvarez out of the 9 spot. He should be higher than that. He should be anywhere between 5 and 7. Lindor should be, you could argue, be moved down. I wouldn't be opposed to Lindor being moved down a couple spots either. I think that would be really smart for him.
Yeah, his heart's not into it right now. He's got a lot on his plate considering his wife's almost due.
Yeah, I mean, his heart's in it. I wouldn't say that isn't the case. But yeah, when you have those internal conflicts because, you're excited but also stressed about a kid being born, that plays a factor as well. But there's little things that I would change to the lineup and riding the hot hand, knowing matchups, but like not being just riding the hot hand more than anything. Like for example, if a lefty is starting tomorrow, which I know isn't, but if there was, Tommy Pham is automatically getting the start in left field, right? Even against Strider, you could make the argument, but Pham I could see getting overpowered against Strider tomorrow. So with that being said, he'll probably start. Not to nitpick him, just pointing out what I've been seeing. And then, like externally, I would already being active, try my best to do some things on the pitching front to rectify things in the meantime. Nothing drastic, but some relievers that can eat innings for you, give you some more extended length, and cut some dead weight in the process. So those are all things that I would certainly do, and hopefully the Mets do them at some point sooner than later. But with that being said, Mike, because we're about to get to the hour and a half mark for the live show, I'm going to wrap things up. So, again, I really appreciate you chiming in, appreciate you calling in, and I appreciate you being so diligent and waiting to call in. So thank you so much for that. It's always good talking to you.
Thank you very much, Wardy. Thank you very much.
Yep, and have a good rest of your night then. So shout out to Mike for calling in. Means a lot. Appreciate everyone that called in, guys, but that's going to do it. I'm exhausted, and I got to watch a little bit of my Succession because I've started binge watching Succession. That's a priority now. For those that haven't watched Succession yet, I feel sorry for you. Best decision I made just a couple days ago. So I'm going to go and do that. But I hope everyone enjoyed the show, all things considered. If you watch live on a replay, thank you so much for the support. And of course, shout out to our great sponsors that we have here on the channel. You know the drill by now. At Mojo Sportsbook, of course, make sure to check out Mojo Sportsbook, one of the better sportsbooks out there, especially for New Jersey residents only. Just briefly want to share with you guys that, again, for Mojo Sportsbook, for New Jersey residents only, again, you can invest on player stock the same way that you would on normal stock of anything for that matter, but you invest on players. You could day trade however you want to go about, do parlays, in which Max Scherzer's over on Mojo Sportsbook was at 6.5 Ks at minus 101 odds at 50 cents. And if you hammered, you came out like a bandit, as he had 9 Ks in 4 innings today, or he had 7 through 3 as a matter of fact. But using my promo code WardyNYM to get 20% deposit match up to $100. Shout out Mojo Sportsbook for being a great sponsor. And also shout out my good friends at Mantis Sleep. You guys know the drill. I'm going to use my sleep mask tonight, the best sleep mask on the market that may you guys have purchased. Thank you so much for that. And all you have to do again is by clicking the link in the description and using my promo code WARDY for 10% off your purchase. Again, that is promo code WARDY for 10% off your purchase. Shout out to my great sponsors on the channel as always, and shout out all you beauties watching, sharing your frustrations, calling in. We may even take callers again tomorrow. We'll see how I'm feeling, see how late of a night it is. If the Mets salvage a series, great. If they get swept, then we're going to have a rant to get into. So until then, have a great rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you're watching this. The Mets continue to be a laughing stock at times, a bit of a shit show, and they are trying to get back on track, and hopefully it'll start tomorrow against Spencer Strider as Justin Verlander toes the rubber. Thank you again, guys. I'll see you tomorrow night. And as frustrating as this is, no matter what, let's go Mets. Peace out.